Yeah, that's right. Yep, I did it. I put those flags up there. You're looking at a man that's been pushed too far. You're looking at a man that's had enough. And it's time for decent people to say, enough is enough. If they can show their fake, silly, crazy history, I can show my true history. And both of those emblems behind me mean if you come at us, you better pack a lunch because it's going to take a minute. We're fed up and we are tired of being nice guys and nice girls. Oh, are you ready for some unindoctrination? Are you ready for some unindoctrination? We got some good stuff for you this morning. I think we're going to have several shows today. And like Harry says, the pushers need to watch out because we've been pushed too far. I saw some interesting, we don't usually do this, but I wanted to highlight a couple of comments. S. Hetrick hasn't been here in a while. Nice to see you. Lionel says it's time for some choich. Good to see you, Lionel. Let's see. Paul says, church is starting an argument on the way there, then finishing the argument on the way home after. Oh, man, I've been there, done that so many times. Cereal Dog's mask is drying. Hey, don't let anybody hate on you. Metrosexual is a good thing. Don't worry. It'll be all right. Let's see what else we got here. Can't wait to get in this topic today, says Laura. Norberto's here. Paul, Cereal Dog, Karen Steele, Laura Vaughn. Harry Christie, this is the one that caught my eye, said that in Germany, thousands were protesting again in the streets against the masks and restrictions. Whoa, almost dumped some water over. And Harry says, we need a rallying cry to do the same here in the U.S. Ergo, my new background. It is time for a little rebel yell. It is time for us not to let them tread on us any longer. We have been nice too long. That is the problem of of decent people. I was going to say of the white race, and it is emblematic of the white race, but it's also emblematic of people that are decent of all races. We're too decent. We're too nice. We take too much. And those days are over because here we come. Ready or not, here we come. Here's the rallying cry. If we've been waiting for one, let's lock and load. Let's get it on. We are not going to be pushed around anymore. Stephen in Alberta. Tracy, why are you yelling? Who's yelling? Oh, the comments. I see. Mass, I hate those things, says Sterling over in Japan. Imaginary Man, Emmy Blue Fry, Joel Taylor. Tracy says, whoa. I'm just waiting to see if we get any. I have yet to get Lydia's here. I've yet to get a bad report on the flag. So we'll see. Kirsten's here. Carmen's here. Leah's here. Juvenali from just up the road in Nebraska. Welcome to a fellow Heartlander. So today we're going to do a little bit of a combination show because I've got to finish up the one on the UFOs, aliens, and the fairy kingdom. Then I've got another one to bring us. So let's take a quick look at this because this is important. This leads us somewhere. This takes us to a place that we need to go. And you remember this, we went through it, the UFO, the aliens, and the fairy kingdom. About 1891, people started saying, And then a book was written that was very, very inclusive of all of the fairy lore. And in comparing fairy lore and the lore of UFOs, to think that UFOs are exclusively alien spacecraft from some far off planet really does betray a lack of understanding of all of the information. Most experts that actually study and care are coming to a conclusion that flying saucers might more probably be creatures, those that pilot them, that share this earth with us actually. And the perspective filter of that perceived as supernatural slowly but surely morphed from the things of the earth, because we were people of the earth, into things mechanical with the industrial revolution and things of that nature. So the question becomes, can the two phenomena, fairies and aliens, somehow be the same, related, identical? And why does it matter? Well, it's after 40 years of study and 40 years of ruminations, I have concluded that non-human entities do not originate in a galaxy far, far away. I apologize to you Star Wars fans, but John Keel and Jacques Vallée were among the first to see a clear connection between 20th century aliens and the ancient fairy myths. UFOs were just another guise of the same order that had always been present. So what people used to describe fairies now are being described as UFOs. Jacques Vallée has probably done more than any other ufologist to promote the idea that there's connections between modern UFOs and their occupants, and reports from previous centuries regarding those entities and the fairies. I'm not going to read this, but they both manifest themselves in very similar circumstances at very similar times and in very similar ways. Thomas Bullard wrote the definitive treatise, if you will, on abduction. It's called Bullard's Standard Abduction, I believe. And it shows how they're both the same. But here's the real reason, and this is what I'm convinced of, and this is where I'm going with this. I'm convinced, again, after 40 hours, and Joe believes it's Earth Tech, after 40 years of study, that the church has always leveraged the fairy lore in the old days to cover their own child abduction and abuse activity. And the church and the powers that be that are passing away are still trying to use lore to cover their own nefarious child abuse, child sacrifice activities. And what used to be a fairy is now an alien. And facts are stubborn things. They strongly suggest that the church is at least partially responsible for creating fairy abduction lore, as well as creating and maintaining UFO alien abduction lore. I'm telling you, it's right there in the text. The real question is how much of the whole idea of child abduction by supernatural entities has been created by the church as a cover, and what hasn't been created by the church has been created by the government. And those two are in bed with each other. So lovers tend to share most of their information that they have with one another. So I would have to say vast majority of it. Okay. I have it on very strong authority from a member of the gentry themselves that fairies have never been involved in child abduction. Never. That's a lie. And the dark side of this lore is this dark figure right here. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, red, yellow, black, white. Bring him one, he'll take a bite. Jesus is a fairy. Jesus is an alien. And the church vampires, as Joe says, are totally complicit. And here is what he really looks like, folks. This is him in drag. This is what he really looks like. The church created and fostered this lore, both the fairy lore and the UFO lore, to cover its own child/woman abduction and torture operations. And they've penned the same lore that they used to pen up on the aliens, or excuse me, on the fairies, and they've now penned it on the aliens. Looks like Joe grew up in Anaheim. He says he grew up near the fairies of Disney. And you got to remember, back in the day where Walt Disney was running things, Disney was very, very different. It was a very, very different place. So the truth of the matter is, folks, that between the church and the cabal, which is really the same thing, it's one big dark scheme by all the regular players. The gentry have always lived alongside us peacefully. That's the fairy kingdom. That's what they prefer to be called. The church has always sought to control us, has always abducted, has always tortured, and has always consumed our children. The church has long leveraged the gentry as scapegoats to cover their acts. And the gentry is as fed up with the church as we are, perhaps more, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the ETs and the evil fairies is a total distraction. It is a total cover. And the human newborn is a very helpless creature. We all know that. Therefore, it spurs what is real in a human being. It'll either spur the height of compassion to protect that fragile life, or it will spur something else, the worst in far too many people. And the widespread belief that human babies are exposed to many supernatural predators is a huge lie. If anything, human babies have a greater amount of protection from the true divine than even we do. But this lie has been crafted by the cabal to cover up their dark harvesting activities. ETs and the supposed evil fairies are made-up beings to cast blame upon and to use for distraction and cover. Even fairy researchers have bought into this lie, but there are no bad fairies. There just aren't. There are no child abducting fairies. In my opinion, there are no extraterrestrials, but there are, no doubt about it, real, true human Bible-toting child kidnappers, child abusers, and child drinkers. And I saw, and it made me mad, but and deep down, it really hurts my feelings. And believe it or not, I do have feelings. They are kind of deep down, but I do have them. I saw one of our, and I'm not going to name names, but a person, well, Jordan, Jordan, the guy with the glasses and his whiteboard, who's pretty big time now. He put a statement out on Twitter that somebody was trying to talk to him about UFOs. So it fits right in the subject matter. And he's like, don't talk to me about UFOs right now when we've got predators running around killing and eating our children. And, that's a great way to look at it. That's the way we should be looking at it. And yet somebody that should have known better jumped in and says, oh, no, it's not the predators. It's just bad angels. It's just bad angels. It's just bad angels and good angels. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's just the bad angels. How childish can we be? How Abrahamic can we be? How foolish can we be? If you want child abduction to continue, then just blame it on bad angels and sit around and do nothing. Jordan's right. It's not bad angels. It's bad, evil, wicked humans. And all that's necessary for bad, wicked, evil humans to triumph is for our should-be smarter humans to sit by, blame it on angels, and do nothing. Come on, man. There are cabal baby snatchers. They're not fairies. They're not ETs. They're not angels. They're human beings. And we fight not against flesh and blood. That's our problem. Because we've been conditioned for 2,000 years. Why do you think evil has reigned for 2,000 years? Because we don't fight against flesh and blood. We do. That's what that's about. It's time to start fighting flesh and blood. It's time to start resisting human wickedness in high positions. You angel in one hand, and I'll put something in this hand and actually fight against the predators, and we'll see who gets the job done first. Come on, man. The ETs, the evil fairies, are a total distraction. These are cabal-inspired beliefs that fairies watch for young children to abduct, and it's a crime against a gallant and proud race, the gentry themselves. It's not only an attempt to distract from their own guilt, but also to make humans fear another race that may well hold precious knowledge to our victory over the cabal. The evil fairy narrative is yet another foolish divide and conquer tactic. Don't fall for it. And most of the evil fairy lore says that evil fairies look for and attack unbaptized infants. Think about that for a minute while I take a drink of hot coffee. Why would a fairy care if someone's baptized or not if they were evil and were going to take kids? They wouldn't. This is one of those red alerts from Star Trek that shows you the fact that we're taught that it's unbaptized infants that are the most vulnerable, shows you the key to this whole dark practice. Oh my baby's unbaptized. I better take it to the church. You take the baby to the church. Now the church knows you got a baby, and heaven forbid you got a cute baby. Heaven forbid you got a baby with strong energetic emanation from it. And now they know where the baby is. Now they know where the baby lives. Now they know what the baby has. Oh, I'm sure there's some babies that are better producers of adrenochrome than other babies. I'm sure of it. And so now they know where the best babies are. Paul, the guy, the false apostle Paul, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, he talked about better blood. There's some good blood, and then there's some better blood, and then there's the bestest blood. Paul talked about this, not Jeff. But it's a blatant attempt, number one, to force you to convert. Number two, to find out where the good babies are. And number three, to make you feel falsely protected so that you won't be so diligent over your children. Now, the cabal might take the unbaptized first, but they're taking babies that are Christians whenever they decide they want to. And implicit in that is the lie of, oh, well, if you become a Christian, you don't have to worry about your child getting snatched. No, if you become a Christian and get your child baptized, you're just putting your child in the catalog. And when when the need for that type comes up, they will come get your child before they'll get a pagan child that might actually have some protection and at least has a protection of some sort of anonymity. It's dark, folks. It's terrible. It's awful. And of course they cover their tracks. They've made it known in the lore that sometimes, even in spite of your best efforts, baptism, obedience, children are still taken because they get hungry. And if they know there's a really prime candidate for what they want, do you really think they're not going to take it just because they dunked it or sprinkled it? Of course not. They want you to accept a certain number of child disappearances as normal. And then thank them that yours is not one of them. In this world today, we don't even know the number. Somewhere between 100,000 and 1 million children go missing every single year in the most developed, the most surveilled, with the exception perhaps of the communist countries, but the most developed, the most surveilled, the most modern of free countries, quote unquote. How is that possible? It's only possible because the people that are currently in power and that will soon be out of power are permitting it to happen. And you know that the numbers have gone way down since 2016. Well, Trump doesn't do anything. Well, how about that? They want you to get to the place where you accept a certain number of children being destroyed. Master Drogan says vaccination, that's another way that they do it. And they want you to be happy that it wasn't your kid until it is your kid. And then they've got you so programmed. You've got 3 children. One of them gets taken. And you're so thankful that you still got 2 left. You're thanking the God that stole your baby to eat it, that they left 2. Creepy teachers. Pagan children learn how to protect themselves. And remember, pagan only means not Christian. Possibly country dweller, but really not Christian. Folks, we're talking about real stuff. Anne says, be careful who you leave your kids with. And even if they're supposed to be your best friends, I learned the hard way. Thank you, Anne, Karina, for sharing what has to be a very difficult thing to share. Thank you so much for that. That hits me deep. I feel so, it doesn't matter, but thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. Tracy Dyer, masks make it easy to snatch children. Master Drogan, this is a sensitive topic for him. Folks, that's our most precious part. It's our future, literally. And they're stealing our future from us. And we're allowing them. And we got people that should know better. Oh, it's just the angels, man. We'll just sit back and watch because it's just the angels. I can't even begin to talk about how foolish that is and how dangerous that is. Check this out. Major Donald Kehoe, who was an aide to Charles Lindbergh, who was a great American that got savaged for no reason, a great American. Brenda Smith, you just hit on something that is so smart. Brenda says, stop posting your children on Facebook. What is wrong with you people? I'm not on Facebook anymore. Cynthia's on there because she's like the Facebook whistleblower. She's talking about this. She's talking about masks. She's talking about vaccines. She's got her own little whistleblower thing going on there. And she will show me stuff that people write. Not only do you put pictures of your kids, but you put, oh, we're going to be homeschooling our children. Oh, great. Now everybody knows where your kids are going to be. Think. Do you really want to give information about where you are? Oh, here we are at the mall. Oh, look at all my kids and I. We're at the mall. You big dummy. What does that mean? That means your house is empty and they can go take your stuff. Come on. And do you really have that sad and empty of a life that you got to tell people that you don't know, never met, and never will what's going on? I just don't understand it. I really don't understand it. And those are the smart people. The really silly ones are hooking up on Facebook. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. But Kehoe was taken in by the growing modern lore, perceptions, and prejudices that the UFOs were real, and he decided that they were exclusively extraterrestrial. And of course, this gave everybody that wanted to believe that a chance to jump on a bandwagon. But thankfully, we got Jacques Vallée. He had a degree in mathematics. He had an advanced degree in science. He worked at the University of Texas in the field of astronomy, and he helped create a map of the surface of Mars. And I got to say this. Yeah, and then listen, pictures of your kid in the bathtub might be cute to you at home in your photo album. Do not put them on Facebook. And I almost used the S word. Come on, man. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? I know people that put bathing suits on their children on Facebook. Don't do it. It's bad enough, ladies, you put yourself on there with all your junk hanging out. It's bad enough, dudes, that you're on there with your shirt off. Come on. Be smart. But this guy, Jacques Vallée, degree in math, advanced degree in science, astronomy department, made a map of the surface of Mars. This guy knew his stuff. How long does it take to get a degree in math? We'll say it was 6 years because it was a master's degree. And then he's got a PhD in science. That's another 4 years. He got 10 years of schooling. He works in the University of Texas astronomy department where he's literally hands-on doing astronomy. And then he created a map of the surface. He's got at least 20 years of detailed objective study. He didn't wake up one day and lick a frog, take a pill, swallow some shrooms. He didn't channel some entity. He did it the old-fashioned way. He worked, he studied, he earned it. And without exception, it's the people that actually work and study and don't channel and don't lick frogs that come up with level-headed advice and information for us. And he became convinced that it was impossible for all UFOs to be from space. Now, that's not as sexy as licking a frog. That's not as sexy as taking some shrooms and seeing tracers and all of that. That's not as sexy, but it's reality. And his conclusion was based on an analysis of over 100 of case studies from 1869 to 1968. Can you imagine how, okay, think of your average YouTube researcher, the guys and girls you watch on YouTube. What are the chances, first of all, have any of them done any actual study in the spiritual realm? Or do they lick frogs, channel an entity, get a message from somebody, and bring it to you? Secondly, how many of them would actually take the time to pore over 100 case studies spanning a century? How many of them? Now, I'm over here studying 100-year-old banned books, but how many are there like me? How many really do objective research? And why do you watch the ones that don't? Because they're sexy, because they're fun, because it's sensationalistic. And he listed his beliefs. Number one, he said, close encounters are far more numerous than required for any physical survey of the planet. Well, they're just here and they're looking for the planet. They're checking it out because their planet's dying. They got to find a place where they can live. BS. And the humanoid body structure of extraterrestrials is not likely to have originated on another planet, and it's not biologically adapted to space travel. So why would they be that way? They wouldn't, but they are. The reported behavior in thousands of abduction reports contradicts the hypothesis of genetic or scientific experimentations of humans by an advanced race. The extension of the phenomenon throughout recorded history demonstrates that UFOs are not contemporary phenomena, and the ability of UFOs to warp space and time suggests radically different and richer alternatives. He doesn't think they're down here harvesting genes. He doesn't think they're down here probing butts. He doesn't believe it's true. Neither do I. Neither do I. And the thing about it is not only does it keep us afraid, which is very, very important to those that are in power, but won't be much longer. It also cuts us off from different and richer alternatives. And there are much better alternatives. And they're much better because they help us decode the truth of the realities and the times in which we live. Fairies are real and they're not malevolent. ETs are not real and they are malevolent. And their distraction, their malevolence is a distraction and a cover for child harvesting activities. It causes us to externalize and fail. We're worried about things from out there, just like we're hoping good angels and bad angels. Come on. It causes us to be fearing and looking for help from somewhere else when the real answers lie within. Do you guys remember this? This present darkness? Francis Peretti. This was the greatest, most powerful, popular book in churchianity, in goyanity for years. It was like, oh man, everybody knew this. This is where spiritual warfare really took off. We all knew it was real. And I call it back to the bushes. Do you remember this? Well, if you don't, it means that you're not old. But you know you're getting old when things start repeating. They start coming back. They start coming back. I was a full-time Pentecostal preacher for 20 years. I've got over 100,000 hours of studying the biblical scriptures. I'm a Bible college graduate. And back in 1986, we had a very similar end-time hysteria going on as we do today, much like this. Because remember, in 86, we were only 2 years away from 88 reasons that the rapture will happen in 1988, and that was our looking for the event. Is the event going to happen? Well, we also had a demon behind every bush back then, and this book proved it. By the way, we ended up with Bill Clinton in the White House because we were chasing Frank Peretti's demons and waiting on his angels. So this book was all about spiritual warfare, and it shows how everything from you stubbing your toe to world wars are caused by good angels and bad angels. And he wrote 3 or 4 of these books. And he made lots of money. And now we're back to this. 1986, we thought a demon was behind every bush. And now we think that there's a demon behind every bush, but there's also an angel behind every bush too. The distractors on the left talk about UFOs and evil fairies, while those on the right talk about demons, angels, and fallen angels. This is nothing new. And all of this silliness has the same end game. Distract us from the real evil humans that are doing real evil human deeds. If we're going to resist evil, then we need to see evil and we need to confront real, true evil. Whether it's 1986 or it's 2020, spiritual warfare is just another way of saying, I surrender. As far as doing anything that might actually change something. Listen, folks, if it is to be, it's up to me and it's up to thee. It's time to start wrestling with flesh and blood. It's time to start wrestling with human evil in high office, because that's what we're really up against. That's what we're really facing, ladies and gentlemen. And there's no doubt about it. You've seen the fluffy ad running. It does make a tremendous difference when you're surrounded by a high consciousness field. Go to jeffreydaugherty.com, click on the fluffy burst logo. You can get it free for 30 days, or you can just go ahead and get it because it is such a great value. And it literally will change your life. Makes your food be assimilated better, makes your pets calmer, makes your kids calmer, puts you into a more productive state, and allows the giftings that you have within to be manifested much more easily and much more clearly. We'll take a little look through the chat room as regards this particular discussion right now. Let's see. Unfortunate truth, my friend. So happy we're all here to speak of these things, to bring awareness. So hopefully we are able to make more peeps safe. Absolutely metaphysical, mama. It's really coming out how the Lemish are really behind a lot of the evil that's going on. Yes, and we're going to get into that right now for a few minutes. I thought about the bushes when I said a demon behind every bush, because there's no doubt that Papa Bush was a very, very evil dude. A very, very evil dude. Dungeons and Dragons, I never got into that. I'm not sure what was going on. Let's see. Monsters, Inc. I never saw it, but I understand that they were harvesting fear. It's just adrenochrome, folks, and they show us that they're doing it, and yet we still won't believe them. That was before the Left Behind books, Master Drogon. That was before them. Yep. Evil people are far worse than any bad angel, says Harry. He's 100% right. 100% right. What is space and other planets then? That's a great question. What is space? What are other planets? Got any objective, non-CGI evidence for us to examine? Tracy never read This Present Darkness, but everybody else at church did. Yep. I just finished watching a Ted Bundy documentary. People share too much sacred info. Ooh, that's so good. Yeah. Ooh, that's so good. Yep. Sterling says there's a lot of BS, and he's right. Valet is probably not listening to BS studies from NASA, but looking at his own data. Yeah, I think he is. I don't know if Valet is still alive or not. I don't know if he's still alive or not. Jeff is right. Joe has seen many things that can't be unseen, and lots of it began on social media. And we're talking about a person that was over 20 years on the streets as a police officer. And he's seen many things that can't be unseen. Read between the lines. And lots of it began on social media. You know, every now and then you got to take a look in the mirror. Every now and then you got to take a look in the mirror. And even though this is going to hurt, you got to realize if the people that you have to share with in your life are people on Facebook that you've never met. You've allowed yourself to get to a pathetic situation. And the only way to get out of a pathetic situation is to realize, man, I'm pathetic, and then change. Then change. And what drives you to have to share your latest bowel movement on Facebook? Come on. You're better than that. We're better than that. And it's emblematic of the decline of our whole society. It's just crazy. Andy, I don't disagree with you often, but I would disagree with this comment. There's things in space that are there to help life on Earth. I don't know. If we're talking about beings, I'm like, there might be some beams out there, some energies out there, but that's what this is about. Discussion. I don't think there's anything out there that'll help us. Google will allow you to access my website. It's operator error, Mike. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Just maybe use a different browser, or the whole restart your computer thing. It really works, crazy as it sounds. Folks, we've got to learn to grow up and get past this foolishness. We really, really do. We really, really do. What do you think of the Serenity Prayer? Well, this is kind of off the beaten track, and I'm probably going to get in trouble. Serenity Prayer. The Serenity Prayer. Let's look at this Serenity Prayer. The Serenity Prayer, composed in the 1940s by, AA, which, I go back. AA is hard for me because it's created under bad circumstances, but it's helped a lot of people. But it also leaves them addicts for life. So I don't know. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Why do you got to go to a God to get that? Why can't you? You're divine. Why can't you figure out what you can change and can't? Why can't you summon up your own courage? Why do you have to go to a God for these things? That's just my question. Live one day at a time, enjoy the moment at a time, accept hardships as a pathway to peace. Taking as he did this sinful world. We'll throw that one out because that's just plastic Jesus BS. Live one day at a time. Good advice. Enjoy one moment at a time. Great advice. Accept hardships, not as a pathway to peace, but what can I learn from this hardship? As it is, not as I would have it. No. I'm not accepting it as it is. I'm changing it to be as I would have it. I'm a manifesting mofo, trusting that he will make all things right. No, I don't trust him or her. I trust me. If I surrender to his will, no, this thing's bogus. It's bogus. But great question. I say bogus to the third power. It's bogus. Bogus. But I get you, Jason, and I know it's helped a lot of people get from bad places to good places. So you can't throw out everything. But you know what? If AA and the Serenity Prayer helped you get where you are from a place of addiction, it wasn't AA. It wasn't the Serenity Prayer. It was you, my friend. You did it. Feel empowered. The Book of Enoch is fake as shit, Marcy. Totally, completely fake. Totally, completely fake. Do not allow yourself to go down that road. It's garbage, as Tracy says, for sure. Absolutely, 100%. Let me see if I got time to look at this other thing I wanted to look at. I think I do, because it's only very short, but it's very powerful. Short, that's what Cynthia always says, small but mighty. I think it's silly, but it's cute at the same time. All right. Yeah, let's roll with this. We probably shouldn't. I probably should be smarter, but we're going to roll with it anyway. You ready for this? You ready for this? Let's do it. Christianity is a Limish Psy-Op. Joshua, with all due respect, it's my show, not yours. You're wrong. I'm right. They're all trash. Garbage. And very, very dangerous. Jason, you know it was you that did it. And your divinity, your sovereignty, and your freedom that did it. It wasn't anything other than that. And we do need a little help every now and then. The C60 Purple Power is a very big help. It puts you in a place of energy, virility, which never hurts. It's the best antioxidant out there. It's the best free radical remover out there. It pulls all of the heavy metals out of your system. So what are they spraying on us? Are you using your right guard when you shouldn't? When you should have left that behind? C60 Purple Power has transformed my life, and it's great stuff. I hope that you will go to jeffreydaugherty.com, click on the C60 logo, or just go to c60purplepower.com and use the TCW10 code. It'll really definitely change your life, no doubt about it. So Christianity is a Limish Psy-Op. What's Limish? You're going to have to figure that one out on your own. You know, this is one of those cases where I do tell you truth that no one else will. Let's run this back to front real quick. I'm going to do this real quick. So I'm not going to go to these verses like I always do because we're running out of time. So you're going to have to go to them. And I just want to show you. Marcy says, I haven't watched you many times, but the few times I have, I can understand why nobody will challenge you. Marcy, I wish they would. I don't get challenged very often, Marcy. I really don't. And I got challenged the other day by Stephanie. Oh, my God, I said it. Cynthia. I was married to this person named Stephanie for 16 years. And because Cynthia and I are getting married, and I know that she's forever, somehow that gets messed up in my mind. And I just did it live on air. First time I've ever actually done it. And I didn't do it all the way, but it was close enough. Maybe she's not listening. Don't tell me. But Cynthia, what did she, and I just completely lost my train of thought. But anyway, they won't challenge. Oh, I got challenged by Cynthia's brother on a political subject. And it doesn't happen very often. I don't get the chance to debate my side against a person of an opposing side. And that's how you get better. That's how you both understand. And that's how you both can arrive at a compromise solution, because maybe they got some things you didn't think about. Maybe you got some things they didn't think about. But Marcy, these people won't debate me. Number one, because they know that they will be exposed. Number two, they know that they don't have anything to stand on. And number three, they can't afford to lose subscribers, and they can't afford to lose contributors, because they know that if they were to take me on in a scholarly, objective, gentlemanly debate, that they would be destroyed. And it would cause them a huge bit of their subscriber base. So instead of actually stepping up like men and women, they run and hide like cockroaches, because that's what they are, cockroaches. Anyway, let's look at this. Revelation 21:1. We're going to the very end. And I'm talking to my Christian friends right now. And those of you that still want to lean towards that persuasion, you still want a little dab of plastic Jesus. Just a little dab will do you. A little dab of plastic Jesus. The very end of it all, Revelation 21:1. No, I didn't fall out with Rex. Don't be silly. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and earth has passed away. I don't know how you could ever fall out with Rex. You got to be a jerk to fall out with Rex. I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and earth had passed away. Now, you got to remember what I talked about the book of Malachi, about the tithe. The reason why the first heaven and earth passed away is because the rat bastard destroyed it in his wet dream. It's not really going to happen, but his dream is that he would destroy the heaven and the earth that is now. That's his dream, and that's where we are in his wet dream. This is just a wet dream, and we'll pull out of it before the end. Pardon the pun, but yeah, this is his wet dream, that the new heavens and the new earth, a completely redone new heaven and earth is here because he destroyed the first ones. But we're not going to let that happen. And one of the reasons why he destroyed it is because he needed just a tithe of the Gentiles, a tithe directly. I know you think it's money, but I showed you from the text, and you can look back on the channel for the, I forget what it is. I'll link it in the box when we're done. That shows that verse is talking about Gentiles, and it's talking about killing all but a tenth of the Gentiles, keeping a tenth around to clean the toilets and stuff. They want to replace the Mexicans with Gentiles here in America. It's a joke, putting us all in the same even keel. That's what they want to do. And that's what Malachi 3, 9, and 10 is about. Bring a tithe into the storehouse. I showed you that word storehouse means temple, armory. Bring a tithe of what? The Gentiles that we just talked about. Bring a tithe of the Gentiles into the storehouse. Well, how are you going to get rid of 90% of them? You're going to get rid of the new heavens and the new earth. You're going to have a big conflagration that he thinks is going to happen, but it's not. And we're going to talk about that probably later today. And there's also a quick blurb on it in the book of Romans. Imagine that. It's in the book of Romans. Romans 11, and I'll rush through this. Probably wasn't a great idea to do both of these, but we got some bonus material here today. Romans 11, 25 through 26 says, "For I would not, brethren, that you would be ignorant of this mystery. Don't be wise in your own conceits. The blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness or the tithe of the Gentiles comes in. And then all Israel will be saved. It'll come out of Zion, the deliverer, and turn away ungodliness from Jacob." So they're just waiting for a tithe of the Gentiles to come in. And it goes back to like the babies. They want the best ones. They just want a tithe of the Gentiles. And that's why the whole heavens and earth got destroyed. Then he saw the new Jerusalem. And if you break it down, that's a sight joke. I can't say it, but kind of interesting, huh? And it was coming down out of heaven. And I got to show you real quickly what that word heaven means. You think, oh, it's coming down from heaven. It's going to be so wonderful. It's coming down from the heavens, that place where you sit on clouds and you play harps. It's that heaven. It's the heaven that we've all been told by Jesus on the shelf. It's like Elf on the shelf, but it's plastic Jesus on the shelf. And it was coming down from heaven, 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 heaven. I hate to bust your bubble. I really don't. I love busting these bubbles, but I want to show you while you guys are blowing bubbles, I'm busting them. What does the word heaven mean? It comes down from heaven. What is heaven? Heaven is the visible heavens, the atmosphere, the sky, the starry heavens. That's where he's coming from. That's where New Jerusalem's coming from. The atmosphere, the starry skies, the heavens. What's it sound like? Of course it sounds like a UFO. And why is that God that you think is the God of the Bible from there? Why is that God from there? And what would be coming from there? It's not heaven, heaven, it's heaven. Look around, you can see it. And it comes down as a bride adorned for her husband. What happens to brides on the wedding night? What happens to brides on the wedding night? And I would like to do a survey. We'll do an unofficial survey in the chat room. And I promise I will look at it before we go. All of you ladies that have been brides, how was your honeymoon night in a number 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being good? I'm trying to prove a point that I think is legitimate, but we will see from the ladies, because I've never been a bride on a honeymoon night. I never have been. But just a little something to think about. The bride. And look at this verse right here. Look at this verse right here. The God of the Bible is a limb, right? Who do limbs marry? They only marry other limbs. They don't intermarry. They don't intermarry. He that hath the bride is the bridegroom. So there's, in this scenario, there's a bride, which could be argued are the chosen people. And then there's the bridegroom, which is the little g God that we're talking about. But then there's also these friends of the bridegroom who stand and hear. And all they get to hear is the voice. They're like listening through the wall. What happens on a honeymoon night? Well, it's really weird because the bride and the bridegroom are in there doing what they're doing. And then you got these friends of the bridegroom standing and listening through the wall. And their joy is fulfilled just by hearing what goes on through the wall. And then, of course, this God is coming down out of heaven in what is, if you read the text demonstrably, a ship. A ship. Now, if this is really the God of the Bible, and this is really God, then why is he coming down with a ship? Why is he coming down with a ship, ladies and gentlemen? Can you explain this to me? I'll bet you can't, because there is no explanation for it. There is no explanation for it. It cannot be explained. Let me give you some perspective on this. Let me give you a little perspective on this. True perspective on the Bible from just being real. Let me give you a little perspective on this, ladies and gentlemen.
It will be your chariot.
Excuse me.
It will carry my power to every corner of creation.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
Bring the ship closer.
I said, what does God need with a starship?
What does God need with a starship? Just like in this movie, it wasn't God. And the guy coming down out of heaven in a ship isn't God. And you haven't figured that out yet. He's not God. You're worshiping someone who's not God, because he's got to come down in a starship. And even Captain James T. Kirk knows that God doesn't need a starship. I'm trying to help you out here today. I really am. And then the dwelling place of God is with man, and he will live with them. But 1 Corinthians 3:16 says God's already been living in our hearts. It's a contradiction, but not really, because God has been living in our hearts, because we're divine, we're sovereign, we're free. And when we took our first breath, we got the spark of divinity inside of us. So the true divinity is living within us. But they want you to believe that it won't happen until then. And if you look in this chapter, there's a very clear distinction between they and them. There's a clear distinction between they and them. And I'm going to have to show you this. Very clear distinction between they and them. And guess what? You ain't them. You are them. You ain't they. You'll see what I mean here, because it's very clear and it's very plain. And this is the end game. This is how it all winds up. All of it winds up this way. All of it winds up this way. And you're praying for it, Christian. You're hoping for it, Christian. You cry about this, Christian, and for this in a positive way. But watch. There's the bride, right? The bride, that's the chosen people. There's the husband. Of course, that's your little g God of the Bible. And then when this ship comes down out of heaven, then God is with men and he dwells with them. But it ain't you, it's them. And he's going to dwell with them, which is us. And I really should have taken more time with this. He will dwell with them, but they shall be his people. You see that? There's a difference. There's a them that he'll dwell with, but there's a they that shall be his people. And God will be their God. We know who those people are. And God's going to wipe away all tears. From who? All from they, not from them. God wipes away the tears from they. They will have no more death. Who? His people. Not them. They will have no more death. They will have no more sorrow. They will have no more crying. They will have no more pain. Them still will. Because them is just the tithe of the Gentiles. The they. You don't get to be they. You don't get to be they. I'll show you the bride, the lamb's wife. Limbs marry limbs. The God of the limbs ain't marrying somebody that's not a limb. And let me show you something. It's a great city. The Holy Jerusalem. It's a ship that came down from the heavens. It's a holy city. See, you pass these words. Look what holy means. It shows you that all my ranting is right. What does holy mean? Holy city. What's holy mean? Sacred, holy, set apart, separated. You know what that means? Only his people can get in it because it's set apart. Unless you're a limb, you ain't getting in. But that's just the truth. That's just the truth. Let me show you the rest of this. And we're hurrying. We really are. I'll show you the rest of this. This is good stuff. (21:11). There's a shining city. It's glorious. It's radiant. What does a UFO look like? Shining, glorious, radiant. And there's a great and high wall all around this UFO. Why do they build a wall? There's only two reasons to build a wall. One, to keep people in. You don't got to try to keep people in here. This is their place. What's the other reason you build a wall? To keep people out. And they built a wall to keep them out. They've built a wall to keep us out. On the names of this wall, they're all Limish names. The whole thing is a temple, according to verse 22. Who's allowed inside the temple? Only limbs are allowed inside the temple. But wait, you still get a part of it. You still get a part of it. You still get a part. Here's your part right here. You ready for this? Here's your part. In the New Jerusalem. You ready to shout hallelujah? You ready to shout glory? You ready to do a Holy Ghost dance? Well, Jeff, how do you know it's us? Well, see, here's the city, and all God's people are in the city. And then here comes the nations. Ooh, well, who are they? And then the nations. Who are the nations? Oh my, it's the Gentiles. And what do the Gentiles get to do? What do the Gentiles get to do? The Gentiles get to see the light of it. They get to listen through the wall while the consummation goes down. They get to see the light of it. They get to walk past it. And guess what else they get to do? Guess what else they get to do? They get to bring their glory into it. What is their glory? They get to bring their goods. This means they get to bring their taxes. And if you look at the original King James, it makes it the glory and honor. This is their taxes. The taxes of the Gentiles will get brought into it. But you ain't going in. Why? Because there will be nothing that defiles a temple. What does the word defile mean there in verse 27? What does the word mean? Oh, they change it. Practices as an abomination or lie. Nothing unclean. What does unclean mean? It's a Hebraic word for dirty, unwashed, and unclean. What are Gentiles? They're unclean. And how do you defile the temple? By letting a Gentile into it. You're not getting into the New Jerusalem. You're not getting in. You are not getting in. It's plain to see. The end of this whole Bible that you're praying for, that you're hoping for, leaves you on the outside. What was the Lemish temple primarily used for? Sacrifice. What have we Gentiles been primarily used for from then till now? Sacrifice. And it will never, ever end. It will never, ever end. There is no end in sight for you because you did not read your contract. It's like Supernatural, and Crowley's giving you a contract and you didn't read it. Oh, my contract says that I get raised up from the dead and I get to live eternal life in a great spirit body and I get to be just like Jesus, plastic Jesus. Yay. You do, but that's a bad thing. Because what you didn't read in your contract was this. You didn't read this, and it's been a minute since I shared this, so it's good that I am. Here's your contract that you didn't read. If Christ be in you, your body is dead because of sin, but the spirit of life is because of righteousness. And if the spirit of him that raised up Jesus from the dead dwells in you, he'll also raise you up. Yay, see, I get raised up. You didn't read your contract. Let's look at your contract. Line 11 of your contract. If you allow the Father, Big Daddy, the rat bastard of the Bible, if you allow the Father, because he's the one that raised Jesus from the dead, right? Plastic Jesus, he raised him from the dead. He's the Father. If you let him live in you, which means to inhabit, to dwell, that's possession. Let the Father possess you. Then he's going to give life. Yay! Life. To make alive. To cause that which was dead to live. Uh-oh, that's kind of weird. He's alive. It's Frankenstein or Frankenstein. He will also give you life. Yay! But what you didn't read was this part right here. What's he going to give life to? To yours, you. Not me, but you. He's going to give life to your, oh, wait a second. What does this word mean? Bodies, body, flesh. Wait a second. No. You don't understand. It's not flesh. It's going to be a spirit body. Oh, really? Because your contract says it's a mortal body. And what does mortal mean? Subject to death. The inevitability of physical death. You are going to be raised in a body that is subject to dying and that has the inevitability of physical death. So what you really signed up for is to keep coming back to be a tithe of the Gentiles in a physical body that at best, you're going to be cleaning up the grounds of the temple because you ain't getting in. But at worst, you might get in. And there's only one reason that a non-limb gets into a temple. They invite you to dinner, but you are dinner. Winner, winner. You're the dinner. This is what you've been hoping for. This is what you've been praying for. This is it all. Come quickly, Lord Plastic Jesus. You have been fooled. You have been deceived. You have been tricked. And you're mad at me for showing you how tricked you are. Your Bible was written by limbs. Plastic Jesus was a limb. John the Revelator, who wrote Revelation, was a limb. What's the end game? Do the math. A limb God in a limb temple ruling all of earth with all the goyim outside bringing taxes. And if you ever get inside, they invite you to dinner and your dinner. Is this really the best you got? Is this really the best that you can imagine? Come on, folks. Really? Really? Let me see if I can get back to see if we got any ladies that gave us the goods. Probably they didn't. I don't blame them. They didn't. I don't see any. Our brains have been controlled since birth, says Omo. It's true. They will board that ship. Only if they're going to be dinner. Only limb names are written on the foundation. Only the limb tribes get in. The limbs are about to get kicked out again. Is it wrong to side with the former German chancellor on this one? Are them the 144,000? Will they come from every child of the tribe of Israel? Good point. Maybe they're the... That's really good. Ooh, limb, like the lunar module. Oh, God don't need no starship. Non-limbs are slaves. I don't even know if they get inside, Harry, unless they're going to be sacrifices. We built this city. Yep. And you ain't invited. You ain't invited. What's the meaning of Gentile? Loosely translated, cattle. 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 That's what you are, cattle. Lola says, better check the fine print. Yeah. Better check the fine print. Thank you for the study and knowledge on these subjects, says Joe. Thank you for being here. How does one undo a baptism? You just undo it. Say, I undo my baptism. It's over. I reject it. Lionel Burial says, Get the Bad War by Mike King. It was a really good, really good book. You will want to have it. Your physical self versus your spiritual self. So this is Mortal Kombat. Sorry I'm late, says Lindsay. Hi, nice to see you. They don't want the truth. That's for sure. The marriage supper of the Lamb is you. And you taste like chicken. I understand we actually taste like pork, but hey, who am I? Who am I? What do we do? I mean, now in real time. First, we realize what's going on. And then we begin to take appropriate action. We draw a line in the sand, say, we're rebelling. We're not doing it anymore. It really is just that simple. You answer questions I've had most of my life. Well, thank you, Erica. It's not because I'm so smart. It's because I'm so old. I've been there, done that. 40 years at this. 40 years at this at over time, probably at least 8 hours a day. That's a lot of hours. 7 days a week. You learn a few things, and that's why I'm here, is to share what I've learned. I'm just the mailman. I bring you the mail, and I'll keep doing it. It's up to you to open it. It's up to you to read it. It's up to you to apply it or not. For Tracy Dyer and all our great moderators, for the lovely Cynthia, I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. And I encourage you to unindoctrinate yourself. I encourage you to ask questions. I encourage you to question answers. Man is called Long Pig. Yes, it is. And I encourage you to unindoctrinate yourself. We'll see you again later on today with more really, really good stuff. Until then, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We appreciate you for being here with us.